Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ikigaia podcast. Today, I am joined by none other than Clinton Young, all the way from the US. So I am super excited to be talking to Clinton. I have known him for a number of years. He is an international speaker, gracing the stages all across the world. And we are going to get into a bit of Clinton's purpose and his journey. And so, Clinton, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, the listeners. Let us know what it is that you do and what you're about, Clinton.
All right. Well, thank you again. My name is Clinton Young here, and I am an international keynote speaker and world-class coach for aspiring speakers. And I've also been known to be told that I'm an awesome podcast guest. So that remains to be seen. We will see. But I work with primarily aspiring speakers and also entrepreneurs with a message that have a burning desire to express that message to the world. And what I do is I enable the courage and confidence for them to do that, to overcome the fear, to overcome any past failures, any doubts that they have, and really just put the fire under them to be able to get out there and live their dream life. And in most cases, the people I work with, their dream life is expressing their unique message as a professional speaker.
That is so cool. I think that that's so powerful to have obviously grown into your own identity as this world-class speaker and coach, and then to be supporting other people to do the same. I'd love to know, what is it that got you into speaking? What was your journey to becoming a speaker and really realizing your own voice?
Love that question. You know, it really comes down to a lot of what we talk about it when you hear the word Ikigai, right? Before I even knew of Ikigai, I had always been, I guess I shouldn't say always, before I knew about personal development, I was always sort of into academic development. And I think it's important for the listeners out there to really understand the distinction between academic development and personal development. You see, academic development, I find, is about adding things, right? I want to learn psychology. I want to learn culture. I want to learn neuro-linguistic programming. I want to learn personality types. These are some of the areas that I've developed mastery in. But that's, I find, more about adding things. It's almost if you visualize a garden and you're planting a bunch of things. And what we realize on our pathway of academic learning a lot of times is some of the things we plant, we don't always love, or we don't always follow through on. Weeds start growing up in the garden, and we start moving on. We plant something else, right? Because we don't like that, we want something else. So that's the visualization of personal development. Of academic development, excuse me. Personal development, I've found, is more like a visual of going through that garden and figuring out where the weeds are and pulling them out of the garden, right? Academic development is adding, whereas I find that personal development in a lot of cases is removing things that aren't necessary, removing some of the clutter, some of the weeds in our mind or in our hearts or in our souls, and really discovering what is unique to us, right? So that's sort of the philosophical, visual explanation, but let me really answer your question directly of how I chose and really found speaking to be my passion and that thing that lights me up. It was before I even really knew what Ikigai was or purpose was or what my flow is, what puts me in that unique state of just being happy and joyful. It was before I ever knew that. It was just sort of this desire to be happy, right? I think we all have this innate desire and right to be happy, to feel fulfilled, to feel full of life. And I'd always been somebody that really was strongly connected to being fulfilled. Again, before I even knew what it was, I don't want to say I was selfish, but I wanted to feel good, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think that there's part of all of us that wants that. So I'd always gravitated towards things where I just felt like I was kind of adding the most value, and I felt like I was doing good at it and I liked it. And that always gravitated me towards sales opportunities, opportunities to either be on the phone, which I know some people are like throwing up in their mouth right now, right? They don't want to do that. They don't want to reach out to people on the phone. I've always wanted to be that person that could like host or talk to people out and about. And I didn't really know why. I just knew that that's where I felt good. So that's what I did. And that's where I excelled. I was always good at sales. And it was my mentor, one of my mentors, Justin Yates, this was probably 15 years ago. He saw in me something that I didn't see in myself. And that's why I find that it's so important to surround ourselves with people that are further along on the journey than us, that are more spiritually evolved, that are more academically involved, that are more developed personally, right? Or more developed in whatever area is most important to us. And for me at that time, it was entrepreneurship and sales. This was a guy that's making millions and millions of dollars, and he just had this amazing lifestyle. And not that it's all about making money, but that was something that was important to me at the time. I wanted to make six figures, right? That was the thing that was really important to me 15 years ago. And he was a guy that saw in me a talent and a gift that I didn't know was there. And he would throw me up on stage, Kathleen. So picture this. I've got a story. I want to share this with you. So one day, picture this. We're in this conference room, and we're walking towards the conference room because every week we would have these meetings, or these meetings where there'd be about 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30 or 40 people in the conference room. And Justin would always deliver the presentation. And I would just show up and be a good audience member. I'm high-fiving people, I'm giving it good energy, saying yes at the right times, talking to the guests, making sure everybody feels comfortable, right? Doing the things I like to do that I'm good at. And today, picture this, we walk up to this conference room. It's all glass walls, all glass door. We look over, there's about 30 people in the room. We get up to the conference room. Justin turns to me. He flips me the clicker, and he's like, Clinton, you're on today, buddy. And he turns around, opens the door, and walks in. And as soon as we do that, everybody in the room just turns their heads and looks over at us. And I'm left standing there holding the clicker, right? So we walk in, and everyone's seated down or sat down, and I'm standing there, and I'm like quaking in my boots, Kathleen. I'm like sweating from my forehead. My heart's pounding. My chest is all tight. I'm like shivering in my boots, and it is a train wreck, like absolute train wreck. I'm fumbling my way through this presentation. But there was this moment in time where I just settle in, and I start to recall the things that Justin had shared with me over the previous several months. And, I settled down, and I actually made it through that presentation. And there was a moment in time in that presentation where I actually felt this fire in me that was just lit. And I just got the chills right now when I'm talking about it. And I felt like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Right? And since then, I've just found opportunities to nurture that, to put myself in those opportunities of still being fearful, right? But feeling alive. Right? I find like that's where the magic happens, where there's this knowingness, the intersection between knowingness, this sort of faith, this knowingness that something's right, and then the other side of the coin, that sort of fear of the unknowingness. And I find that it's that intersection between that knowingness and unknowingness, that's where the magic happens. That's where we feel alive. And that's where I feel alive.
That's so cool. That it's so true. I think there's definitely like, if you are too comfortable, you're probably not doing it right. But definitely on this kind of like, understanding purpose and how it shows up in your life, I really heard some major things there around surrounding yourself with people who are stages ahead in the journey. And definitely people obviously that you are inspired by or want to emulate and want to learn from. And there's like more opportunities than ever now to do that. Right. And then the other side of it, which is like at some point just taking that leap and, kind of being pushed over the precipice of your comfort zone. And for you, like, do you feel, obviously like with Justin's support, you actually felt not necessarily ready, but pushed. You didn't really have another option but to get on that stage with that clicker, do that presentation. Do you think that you would have like found, like, would it have taken longer for you to do it on your own? Do you think you would have done that at that point? Where do you think you'd be now if Justin hadn't pushed you to get on the stage at that point?
You know, I don't know if I ever would have made it. I mean, I would like to think that I would have found my way, that somebody else would have come across my path to push me in that direction, or maybe I would have gone in that direction on my own. But that's the beauty and the power of surrounding ourselves with people that think bigger, right? I like to say, think big, say yes, and take action. That is sort of my 6-word story that really exemplifies what I stand for. Think big, say yes, and take action. I don't know if I would have gone in that same direction, but I tell you what, I'm so grateful that I was surrounded by people that thought bigger than me and that put me in that sort of line of fire, that opportunity, because that gave me that massive opportunity to expand. And just to share a little bit more about surrounding ourselves with big people, right? You know, I always say that, and really this came from Justin. He used to say all the time, he used to say, we are the products of the books we read and the people we hang out with, period. Write that down, folks. We're the products of the people that are the books we read and the people that we hang out with, right? So when I found that, I found out that, I got rid of all my friends. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't do that. But I started to surround myself more and more with people like Justin, right? And there's this concept called the power of 5. The power of 5 states that, you know, again, we're really the products of the top 5 people that we hang out with. It's an extension of Justin's quote. And if you were to really think about, like, let's think about it in our money, our net worth, or the money that we make, right? There's this common phrase, your network determines your net worth. You may have heard that before. It's a very common phrase out there. Your network determines your net worth. I would argue that your network determines everything. Your network determines everything. Your network determines your level of personal growth. Your network determines your level of speaking ability. Your network determines your level of physical health. Your network determines your level of spiritual awareness. Your network determines everything, right? There are other variables, but ultimately it's such a massive influence. So much so that this power of 5 states again that your net worth will be determined by your network. So if you were to do an experiment, look at the top 5 people you hang out with, look at how much money they make, right? Just get an idea of what it might be. Add all 5 of those up, divide by 5, and you have an average. Well, the power of 5 states that your income will likely be within about 5% of the top 5 people you hang out with, right? And that's what when I found that out, that's when I got rid of all my friends. And no, I really didn't, but I did start surrounding myself, like I said, with people like Justin. Because at that time of my life, you know, in my 20s, I wanted to make 6 figures. I really wanted to do it so bad. So I was like, how do I do it? All right, well, I started surrounding myself with people, and I started to model them. Model them, right? Write that down. In model, all it means is copy. It means copy them, right? In school, they call it cheating. In the real world, in the entrepreneurial world, they call it being smart. Right? We don't need to recreate the wheel, so copy them. Go where they go, be as they be, do as they do, read what they're reading, and eventually you'll have the lifestyle that they have. You'll have the impact that they have. And I want to make sure your listeners don't think that I'm all about making money. I know I've talked about that a few times. It's just a real easy example to share that's very tangible. But again, if you wanted to be a triathlete, Kathleen, who do you think you should hang out with probably?
Probably other triathletes.
Probably other triathletes, right? And you will learn by osmosis. You will learn by the things that they say. You'll start to discover their beliefs, right? One of the things I talk about in my keynote speech, reigniting your human spirit, and perhaps we'll talk about where that name came from if you'd like. Reigniting your human spirit. We all have limiting beliefs. We all do. We have these beliefs that hold us back, and we don't even know that they're there. They're unconscious. And when we start to hang out with other people, we start to hear the things that they say. You start to hear the things that you say. You want to discover what your limiting beliefs are? Start to listen to the words that come out of your mouth when you stub your toe, when you make a mistake, when you're frustrated, when you're stressed out. Those little things that you mutter under your breath, most likely there's a limiting belief encapsulated inside of your words. So start to hang out with those people, and you start to find every area of your life can be elevated. I'm not saying that people that are further along as a triathlete or making more money or spiritual awareness have everything in their life figured out. No, but that one area where you want to grow and expand, follow them and model them in that area of their life and watch what happens in your life.
That is amazing advice. And I think what's so fantastic about the time that we live in now is it's easier than ever to find and connect with someone that inspires you, right? Like whether that's, you know, that YouTube creator who's doing the stuff you want to do, whether that's an online, like right now, most speakers are now doing online work, that podcaster, whoever it is, like you don't, if you feel that you have trouble finding those people in your own immediate network, reach out further, right? And like go and find out what those people are reading, read their blog posts, like actually consume their content and start to emulate some aspects of them that you feel you need more of in your life, right? I think that's such great advice. And definitely the rule of 5 is one that I have heard many a time and tried to think of often in my own life as I'm going through my own growth as well. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I absolutely would love to dig into the topic of your one of your keynotes, which is, you said, igniting your human potential, human spirit.
Yes. So it's, everybody always says igniting, and there's a reason why I say
reigniting.
Yeah, reigniting. And that's sort of the reason why I hold on to that reigniting, even though so many people have said, just call it igniting. I'm like, no, it's reigniting. And here's why. You've probably, I know you're a lot younger than me, but I believe they still have gas stoves. I think you're in Portugal these days. So, you know, underneath the stove, whether you know it or not, there's this thing called the pilot light. Right? It's a flame. It's almost like a little lighter under there that's always lit. Always, even when the stove is off, that little bad boy is lit, right? And when you turn the stove, it makes a little spark with the flint, and it creates a larger flame, right? So 2008, 2009, we all know kind of what happened back then. That's with the major financial crisis, definitely in the US and in a lot of areas around the world. There was this massive financial challenge. Well, this is about 4 years after working with Justin. I was making 6 figures. I was living an extraordinary life, traveling around the world, and had amazing time flexibility. And it started to wane a little bit in the end of, or beginning of 2008. And by 2009, Kathleen, my business crumbled. Like, I literally lost my business. In the matter of about a month, I lost my business. I lost my credit. This was accumulating over time. And I lost my property, right? I lost my business, my property, and my credit. This is 8 months after I get married, right? Welcome to the family, honey, right?
Oof.
And I had to make some massive decisions. And man, my confidence was shattered. Like, I'm talking shattered. And I realized what happened was I'd always been somebody that followed my intuition, right? And if any of the listeners don't really know what I'm talking about intuition, I just mean sort of that knowingness that we were talking about earlier. It's that sort of faith, and I don't mean religious faith. I know some people that listen are religious, some people are spiritual, some people are neither. But really, I just think of faith when I say that as this sort of knowingness, this childlike confidence. Right? When you're a little kid, you have this, I call it little kid confidence. You have this little kid confidence that anything's possible. And the beautiful thing is, and the crazy thing is it's actually true when your parents tell you that anything's possible. The more you understand your own personal development and just the principles of how the world works, it's actually true that anything is possible. So what they're telling us is actually true. Side note conversation there. But there's this childlike confidence that anything's possible. Well, there are times in our lives, even when we're 25 or 44, like I am, that, you know, anything is still possible. And when we have this faith, this childlike confidence, that's a massive, massive, important component to this whole puzzle. And perhaps, I know I'm seeding some things, perhaps we'll have time to share my magical success formula with 3 steps. And that's the formula I'm starting to allude to, is what comes out of this massive failure that I'm about to share. Okay. So coming back to this challenging experience, I had always been someone that followed my intuition. I'd always, when I had this feeling of knowingness, I would just do it and things would work out. I had this feeling of knowingness when I was 27 years old or 26 years old that I had to go to Singapore. I had a friend that was over there working at the US Embassy. I said, I need to go to Singapore. I don't know why. I just keep having this feeling. I just got to go. So I called him up and I went over and we hung out and went all through Southeast Asia, and it lit this massive flame of passion in me, Kathleen. And it ultimately led me to grad school, which led me to many other things that led me to moving to California, becoming an entrepreneur. I mean, you could say all these things lead to everything. Led me to community, my wife, led me to becoming a speaker, right? This magic and miracles happen, and I'd love to share that formula in a moment. So I'd always been someone that did that. And what I realized coming back to 2009 is I'm in this seminar. Picture this, 200 people around. I'm standing at the microphone, not yet a speaker, not leading the seminar. I'm in the seminar trying to figure out what the heck just happened, right? My confidence is shattered. And the seminar leader, he looks right at me. His name is Chris. And he says, Clinton, you're dead inside. And it was like, ugh, it was like a stake to my heart, right? But he spoke directly to my soul. Like, he got me. I was dead inside. And it was at that moment when I started to realize that the reason why my confidence was so shattered is because I had made an investment in a few properties several years ago, prior to that, 2005, 2006, and they were bad investments. And ultimately it led to my demise, or was part of the leading to my demise, along with the 2008 collapse. And I realized that I thought my intuition failed me, Kathleen. And that was my whole model of the world, of how the world worked. I would trust my intuition. I'd follow it. Things would always work out. It didn't always work out exactly as I thought, but it was usually always better. Like, everything was always fine. Everything's always going to be fine. I always say today, everything's always perfect. Even when the crap hits the fan, everything's always perfect. It's not always what you thought it was going to be, but it's always perfect. And when I find that I say that and I feel that and believe that, it's always perfect. It always gets us to the next step. It's always perfect. And in that moment, I realized that not only did I think that my intuition failed me, and that's why my experience of the world was shattered, but I realized in that moment it wasn't my intuition that failed me. It was me that failed my intuition. And it was hidden in my subconscious. I actually remembered in that moment, holy cow, my intuition told me not to buy those properties, and I glazed right over it. For whatever reasons, at that time in my life, I glazed right over it, and I did it anyways. And I went against my intuition. So I actually failed my intuition. And that's why I was so shattered. And it's been a 10+ year journey to dig out of that hole, to get more understanding of my Ikigai. What puts me in my flow? How do I get on? I'm getting the chills right now thinking about it. How do I get in those opportunities and those experiences where I'm lit up, where I'm full of life, where I actually feel good, where I'm adding the most value to the people around me? Right? How do I learn more about myself? How do I learn more about what my values are, what my passions are, what's my purpose? What are the things that light me up in life? Right? And it's been this journey, and the more and more that I've been able to find opportunities for me to feel good, right? At the base unit of life, folks, that's all we're trying to do is feel good, right? Find opportunities that put you in that state of feeling good. That's where you're going to add the most value anyways. So why not be happy?
That's
why not be happy?
That's totally it. In the last conversation I had on the podcast, we actually talked about how really giving is the most like selflessly selfish thing to do, which is exactly what you're talking about. Is that point of feeling amazing and feeling good and like when people dig into it, you find that the place where you feel the best is the place where you're also of most service. So for you, it is that like light of speaking and showing up and speaking to the truth of what is, and, you know, inspiring others to do the same. And really, you're giving the biggest gift by being in that spot, being in that magic intersection of Ikigai, right? Which I think so many of us look over. We're like, you know, well, we have to just go and give, but no one celebrates a Matha, right? Like the days of that are long over. Like you have to give selfishly and know that you're doing it also in a place where you feel the most joy and the most inspired. So I think that's an amazing story. And I am so curious now, what is your magic success formula?
Okay, thank you. I know I'm leading us here, but I have these ideas, they just keep popping in my head, and I realized I didn't finish like how the reigniting came from that. So so this pilot light of mine sort of went out, right? I kind of felt like it was flickering, or it went out, and I had to reignite, right? Because as kids, it's already ignited. As kids, we are so pure and so connected to source, whatever your source is, and anything's possible, and it's so dang true. And then something happens to us. It happens to every single person, and this is the genesis of your limiting beliefs, by the way. And if you think you don't have any, think again. Everybody has limiting beliefs, especially if you're just sort of waking up to the world of personal growth and development. But even if you've been in the game for a while, you still have some. So keep looking. And the genesis of them is when we're those little kids and something happens. It could be something traumatic, right? Sometimes it could be a totally benign happenstance, something that just occurs. And as little kids, we're so pure, but yet our brains, our logical brains, are not yet formed fully. So we make it mean something. Something happens and we place a meaning on it. But it's not the actual meaning. It's not the real meaning. But we made it real, and it gets filed into our subconscious brain, right? And we then go through the rest of our lives believing that that's true. More so important than that is we do more than believe it. We actually collect evidence to support it, and we strengthen it, and we strengthen it, and we strengthen it. And I'm giving you sort of a basic psychology lesson, a very rudimentary way to explain it, just to give a little credibility. I have a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in psychology, organizational psychology, and I've been geeking out on neuroscience for like the last 15 years. Not that I'm the foremost expert, but I know more than the average person. And I'm just giving you a very rudimentary explanation of how our limiting beliefs are formed, and we all have them. And it's not until we start to wake up to the idea, A, that we actually have them, and we start to search for them, that's where things start to unlock for us. So the reigniting, where that comes from, is my pilot light went out, and I needed to reignite my own human spirit. I didn't need to ignite it. I needed to reignite it. It was already ignited. We're already all ignited, but we just sometimes need a little bit of help. We need a little reignition, right? To light that flame up. And that's where my purpose really came from, is reigniting the human spirit. I want to help those other people out there, the people that are listening, that perhaps they've experienced a failure, perhaps they are having fear, perhaps they're having doubt about what's possible, right? Perhaps they believe anything's possible. They have this great personally developed attitude, and they believe anything's possible, but not for me, right? Anyone can do that, but I can't do that, right? Well, that's not true, right? So what I discovered, to go into sort of this success formula, fast forward, right? I'm in, I think it was 2012 perhaps. I'm not exact on the date, but I'm in Hawaii. I'm in the island of Kauai, which, by the way, is amazing if nobody's ever been there. One of my favorite places on the planet, Hanalei Bay. And my wife and I were laying in bed. We're looking out, floor-to-ceiling windows. We're looking out at the Nepali coast, which is one of the most beautiful coastlines on the planet. Just the very beginning of the Nepali coast we can see through our window, and we can see Hanalei Bay. That's probably my favorite place on the planet, Hanalei Bay, on the North Shore of Kauai. Full green mountains, waterfalls coming off the mountain way in the distance, beautiful green meadow in the front. And we're just like so grateful that we're there. By the way, we're not in like the Ritz-Carlton. We're in like a $75 Craigslist. Before Airbnb, we were like a Craigslist, like half a duplex, but it was legit. It was tiny, but it was the best view. We had like a $500 view. It was amazing. And I'm looking out, and this isn't too long after this failure, this experience of failure. So it must have been 2011 actually.
Mm.
And we're just sitting there pondering. We're actually watching the show American Idol. Yes, people, I watch American Idol. I admit it. I admit it. And you know why I do it? Because I love feeling good. I love feeling the tingles. I always say, follow the tingles, people. Follow the tingles. Right? The tingles are your intuition. The tingles are the clues. We're designed to feel good, right? And music makes me feel good. So inspire, when people are in that inspiring experience of flow on stage, which they're not always, by the way, on American Idol, but every once in a while, you get that person that is just so connected to source. They're so in the zone. You know what I'm talking about, Kathleen. I'm sure you've seen it, whether it's on American Idol or somewhere else. They're so in the zone. And the reason why we tingle when we see that is because that's what we're designed to do, not necessarily be speakers, but we're all supposed to be in our flow. That's why we're here, right? It's our right, it's our gift as human beings, as spiritual beings, live in this human experience, to have that feeling, to follow the tingles, to be in the tingles. So anyways, I'm going off on tangents here, but
they're so good though.
hopefully it's useful. So we're laying in bed and we're realizing, like, holy cow, we feel good right now, but we don't always feel this way. Like, why did I have this massive failure? Why did I, like, what was I doing in my life over the years that made me feel good, where I was totally in the flow? And we started to recount back to different opportunities and experiences in our life where we were totally lit up, totally inspired, totally in flow, making the amount of money we wanted to make, making the kind of impact and difference we wanted to make, you know, having the kind of lifestyle we wanted to have. So if you're listening, start to think back of a time when you felt that way, if you don't feel that way right now. Think of a time when you actually felt that way. Kathleen, think of a time when you felt that way. Maybe it's right now. You seem like you're totally in the flow right now, which is awesome, right? Well, I wasn't at that time. And some of your listeners might not be right now in their life. So we're sitting there and I'm like, why did I have this massive failure? Right? There's a lot of reasons, but we started to basically break it down. And what ended up happening, Kathleen, is we felt like we decoded success. And what I mean by success is feeling good, right? Living a great life, making the kind of impact you want to make, making the kind of money you want to make, right? Whatever that looks like for you, it's success. And what I realized is, I thought of a time when I was in grad school. Do you mind if I tell one more quick story?
Please.
This?
Yeah, please do.
So I'm in grad school. This is before I knew anything about personal development. I was totally in the world of academic development, okay? But I was a sponge. I was hungry for expansion more than you would think as a normal, quote unquote, person in college, a student. I was a little bit older in grad school. I was 25, 26. Most people are like 21, 22. So I was a little more, I don't know if mature is the right word, but I was hungry for growth. Like, I was actually there to learn, unlike undergrad, where I was just kind of going through the motions in my experience. So I'm really hungry, and I'm studying the cultural adjustment process that people go through when they get sent overseas on assignment. And remember, this passion for culture came from following my intuition and going to meet my friend in Singapore. That's what led me to grad school. And I was studying the cultural adjustment process. And I coupled it with a construct that was important to me, emotions. I feel like emotions are my superpower, and specifically emotional intelligence. So I was looking at, if you're more emotionally intelligent, are you more likely to be able to acculturate or adjust to the culture overseas? And I actually found out that it's true, that there's a correlation there. So I digress. I'm so fired up about culture. So picture and imagine I'm at this grad school, and like, I'm so excited about it. And I'm like, I'm going overseas. I have no idea how. I just have this intuition, right? I'm going overseas. Again, I have no clue, no financial resources to do so, no connections, no people resources, no even reason to believe that it's possible. And I'm studying something that, like, even my mentors, like, Clinton, what are you studying? How are you going to combine psychology and emotions, culture? Like, what are you ever going to do with that? My mentor is telling me this, so be careful who you choose as your mentors, right? Be careful. He gave me a lot of good things to ponder as well. But I'm like, you know what? I don't know, but I just feel it. It's happening. I'm going, right? I was so lit up. I was so inspired. I knew nothing about personal growth. I knew nothing about the law of attraction, but man, magic was happening. Okay. So this is the beginning of the formula. I'm sharing the formula with you, and I'll really underline it at the end. So I'm so excited. I'm so inspired, right? And if you had international in your title, I was interviewing you. If you had adversity or diversity in your title, I was interviewing you. I was on a warpath. If you had an accent that didn't sound like you were from the US, I was interviewing you. I was finding out, what are you passionate about? What are you doing? How can I help you? What's going on? And by the way, this is what I call the discovery process. For anyone out there taking notes, write that down, the discovery process. This is a massive, massive thing that you can do, especially if you feel stuck and you have an inkling of something you might be excited about. Model what I'm telling you right now. It's the discovery process. And man, you will have doors of opportunity flying open to you. So get this, back into the story. So I'm meeting all these people, and I'm asking them all these questions. I'm sharing my passion. I'm like, I'm going overseas. I have no idea how. At the end of every one of my conversations, I would always ask these questions, or this question: who do you know that I should talk to? Write that down, anyone that's listening. Who do you know that I should talk to? That's part of the discovery process. I would always get 2 to 3 more people that I can go talk to. Share my passion again. And some people I might have annoyed. You know, I'm a little exuberant right now. I wasn't always like this in all my meetings. But most people were like lit up about it because they're passionate about it too. They're like, usually they were international folks from around the world living in the US. So they were doing exactly the same thing that I wanted to do in reverse, right? So I would learn so much. I'd find out ways that I could support them. How can I volunteer? How can I add value to you? Who do you think I should talk to? Boom, I'd go to someone else. This happened. I must have interviewed 100 people, Kathleen. 100 people. So I had massive inspiration. So folks, get inspired. Get inspired. And then have faith that it's possible. Have belief about whatever it is that you came to when you were inspired, that you wanted to do. Know that the mere fact that you had the thought and the vision of it means that it's possible. It would be a cruel joke of God or the universe or whoever you believe in, Allah, whatever you believe in. It'd be a cruel joke for you to be able to have that vision and have you not actually be able to achieve it. So just trust that it's a universal principle that when you have that vision, that means that it's possible. You wouldn't have had the vision if it wasn't possible. So now you've got to have faith that it's possible. More than faith, you've got to have belief that it's possible. You've got to have faith that it's already done. It's already done. It just hasn't showed up in your experience yet. It's already done. And now all you need to do is be in massive action. Talk to the you can model, right? You can copy, model the things that they do. Go where they go, do as they do, be as they be, right? Eventually you'll have as they have. Ask them, who can you talk to? Be in this discovery process. And man, guess what happens, Kathleen? All of a sudden, I meet this woman. She's actually a past graduate. She was an alumni. She's from Brazil. And she was in Brazil. She'd already graduated, but she was in my major. And I had a conversation with her. Before you know it, 3 months later, I'm spending the entire summer living in Brazil. I'm literally living in the Vice Minister of Agriculture's home, his mansion, with an elevator, grand piano, an elevator, right, a tennis court. Who would have ever, like, how could I have ever drawn that up? You don't, this is where I said the magic is in the knowingness, the faith, the intersection of that, and the total unknowingness and the fear and doubt that is that unknowingness. The magic is right at the intersection of those two. I never could have guessed that I'd be living in the Vice Minister of Agriculture's home in Brazil. Are you kidding me? Really? I had no money resources, no people resources, no even support of people saying I could do it. I just had this belief and this faith. I was inspired and I took massive action, right? I didn't always live in that gentleman's home. That was, by the way, the father of the woman that I met, right? That was an alumni of my university. I also lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with a couple, 2 people plus their baby. I lived in the laundry room for about a, right? And I also lived in this rundown motel. So I saw the full spectrum of Brazilian culture, traveled all through Brazil, and had this amazing cultural experience. and human experience, right? Having this amazing, just growth experience. So I come back and I'm like, all right, if I can do that once, why can't I do that again? So I start networking, getting in the discovery process. I'm inspired, I'm passionate, I'm sharing my passion. Who do you know, right? This is the discovery process. Total belief that it's possible. It already happened. And I know, I have faith it's already going to happen again. I just don't know where I'm going yet, right? And before you know it, a few months later, I find myself in the next summer, it's about a year later, I find myself living in a 20-store, on the 20th floor of this 22-story building. It's actually a 20-story building. I was on the top, right in the center of Singapore. I'm working at the U.S. Embassy in Singapore. Traveled all through Southeast Asia. I know you have a lot of Singaporean roots as well. And magic and miracles. I come back, same thing again. I'm going to fast forward the story. I'm interviewing now companies. They're not interviewing me. If anyone's looking for a job, looking for an opportunity, like Kathleen has, one of the things she does, works for this global organization. She has her absolute dream job where she has the flexibility to do whatever she wants, right? And have this amazing life, living and traveling all around the world. It's because she has the right opportunity that fits her value set, her skill set, and what's important to her, right? You can do that too if you're not an entrepreneur, right? Or you can be an entrepreneur. I'm interviewing companies. I'm interviewing them. And before long, and eventually I did get into the interview stage where I actually had to put the suit on, right? But I'm interviewing these people that are living and working overseas, and I'm actually going and meeting with people that look after global organizations, and I'm finding out, like, what are the opportunities? Before you know it, I land my dream job. I had no idea it existed, and I move out to California, and I head up this division overseeing clients on the West Coast like Amazon, Cisco, Microsoft, for the intercultural services division of the largest relocation company in the world that relocates companies when they're doing mergers and acquisitions, when Microsoft's doing a merger in Asia and China or whatever, or they're sending 100 families over to Germany to open up a plant from the US to move to Germany. I end up heading up the intercultural services division, of which I didn't even know existed when I started grad school. Magic and freaking miracles open up when you get in this discovery process. So if you're taking notes, write this down, or taking mental notes. If you're listening on a podcast, when you're running in the gym or driving, remember this formula: inspiration plus faith and belief plus action equals magic and miracles. You follow that formula. When you get inspired and you have belief that it's possible because you surround yourself with the right people, you up-level your limiting beliefs, you start to model these people, you have that it's already done, because that's just, sorry folks, that's how the world works. It's just when you believe it and you have faith that it's already done and you stay inspired, you stay in an inspired state, all you need to do is move your mouth and move your feet. Talk to people that are further along in the path. Take actions towards that step, towards that journey, towards that destination, and doors of opportunity will fly open in front of you. That is the magical success formula.
Wow. That was awesome. That was so good. And everyone listening, definitely take notes if you're not already. This is like absolute gold that is being dropped right here. So make sure that you have this written down. I think that is, yeah, wow. I absolutely love, like, you know, if you have thought it, it has already happened. That is definitely something that I live by. If you can think of it, if you're dreaming of it, for sure, like, it's happened, right? So take into the next step, which is the action, which is so huge and something that so many of us were like, oh, well, just do that tomorrow. Like, no, you're in the moment, you're in that inspiration moment, take that step forward. And I think that's so huge. So thank you for sharing that and your story, and like actually taking us through the process, because I know so many people listening, it can be so easy to fall into indecision or fall into confusion or fall into, you know, not knowing what comes next. But this discovery process is such like a magical secret to be taking, like this magic success formula. Everyone go away and take some action towards that. Go and just be curious, right? Like, this is so crucial to all of it. So Clinton, with that, I would love you to share, how can people find you online? How do we keep up with what you're doing and get involved with you?
Thank you for asking, Kathleen. You can find me on my website at clintonyoung.com, CLINTONYOUNG, and I'm sure that'll be somewhere posted somewhere you'll find. You can click on it. And I also work with aspiring speakers and entrepreneurs with a message and a burning desire to share that message with the world. And a huge part of it is storytelling, right? A huge part of it is storytelling. So if you've enjoyed some of the stories that I've shared today, or how I've been able to communicate what it is that I'm up to in life, and you have a desire, and this burning desire to get your message out to the world, I want to help you, right? I want to help you. I want to help you even if you're not a speaker. Just connect with me on clintonyoung.com. But if you are a speaker and you think you're a speaker, you have a speaker inside of you, right? And you want to get to that next level, I want to help you. So I want to actually give a gift to anyone that wants to become world class as a communicator. You can get this even if you never want to speak on stage, but you just want to be totally effective and powerful at communicating your message, whether it's one-on-one or on a Zoom call like this, or on a YouTube video, or whether you do want to be a world-class speaker all around the world. World-class, in my definition, doesn't mean speaking all around the world. It means being at the best of the best at being able to communicate your message at the best possible way you can. And I'm going to give a gift away of my top 7 principles of becoming a world-class speaker and communicator. By the way, just one of these, I literally paid $5,000 to one of my Hall of Fame speaker coaches for just one of these. And I'm giving you 7 of them. There's actually a bonus 8th as well. Away for free. Does that sound pretty cool, Kathleen?
That sounds freaking amazing. And for sure, all of the links for this will be in the podcast description. They are in the show notes. Make sure that you go and get that free gift that Clinton is giving away. That is massive value. Thank you so much, Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get that, I'm going to say it verbally as well. You can get that at worldclassspeakertips.com, worldclassspeakertips.com. That'll get all 7 plus the bonus 8 sent directly to you. And literally, if you just implement just one of those out of any of the 8, you will become a better communicator, a more effective speaker, even if you just want to be awesome at giving that speech at the next wedding you're at.
Yeah.
Or if you actually want to speak on stages all around the world, take those to heart, connect with me, and let's stay connected.
That's awesome. That is so fantastic, Clinton. Thank you so much. Anything that you want to leave the audience, the listeners with? Any parting thoughts before we finish? Over to you.
I'm so glad you asked. 2 things. I've already shared one. It's my 6-word story that really exemplifies what I stand for. And hopefully you've seen this demonstrated in my communication today. And I highly invite all of you to consider living this way, to think big, say yes, and take action. Think big, say yes, and take action. But the thing I really want to leave you with is this quote that I sort of modified off of a t-shirt. Yes, Kathleen, off of a t-shirt from a place that is very near and dear to both of our hearts, Bali, Indonesia.
Yes.
I know that you grew up there, and you've been there a million times, and I've been there a few times as well. And it's this thing that I took and I modified. And it really speaks to me, and it speaks to, I think, the people listening to your podcast. And it really speaks to your purpose. So many people, I speak all around the world, and people come up to me and say, Clinton, how do I find my purpose? And I say, if you're looking for your purpose, stop. And that stops them in their tracks. They're like, wait a minute, you're the reigniting your human spirit guy. What are you talking about? I say, if you're looking for your purpose, if you're looking for it, stop. Because it will be waiting for you when you start doing the things that you love, right? It'll be revealed to you when you start doing the things that you love, when you find the things that light you up, when you find your flow, when you find your Ikigai, when you start putting yourself in those opportunities to grow and expand and do the things you're inspired by. When you believe that it's possible and you surround yourself with amazing people and start up-leveling your beliefs and up-leveling your network, you're going to start to spiral up. And now you have belief. Now all you need to do is take that action, and your purpose will be revealed to you along the path. So stop looking for it. You're doing the wrong thing. You're going to look for anything. Look inward at what lights you up, what gets you inspired. That's the beginning of the formula. That's the beginning of the process of living your dream life now.
Wow. And with that, thank you everyone for being here. All the links you need are in the show notes. Go out there, get inspired, get discovering, and stop searching, because you already got everything you need. Thank you
Kathleen,
so much for being here, Clinton. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Bye now.